Olympians Liu and Gu travel very different paths, and China-US relations hang over their stories. Washington, AP. It is as captivating as it is divisive, the tale of two Chinese-American athletic geniuses who have so much in common but make such different choices. Liu Gu, a 22-year-old freestyle skier, and Alyssa Liu, a 20-year-old figure skater, were both born to Chinese immigrants in California, and both were brought up in single-parent households. Both are elite athletes who turned in gold medal performances at the 2026 Milan Cortina Winter Olympics last month. But public opinion diverges over their choices about the countries for which they compete. Gu chooses to represent China, while Liu waves the US flag. Those decisions are generating heated debates over loyalty, an issue interwoven with money, values and politics on both sides of the Pacific Ocean. In China, many laud Gu for identifying herself as Chinese and competing for the honor of the motherland. But plenty praise Liu, too, for her free spirit and genuineness, sometimes with a subtle nod to her father's role in the 1989 Tiananmen Square democracy protests that landed him in the United States. In the US, Gu's choice has raised eyebrows among politicians, including Vice President J.D. Vance, and even prompted a congressional proposal threatening to tax 100% on athletes such as Gu who compete for countries like China and Russia in the Olympics. Any American who works with a foreign adversary has not only betrayed our country but must be stripped of all benefits from doing so, said Representative Andy Ogles, a Republican from Tennessee. For Gu, it's a Chinese dream come true. To a large extent, Gu's is a story of China's economic success, when its spectacular growth has made it alluring for those with Chinese roots to return for greater financial gains. Gu was born in San Francisco to a Chinese mother working in finance. No information about her father is available. Gu competed for China in the Winter Games in both 2022 and 2026, and she has landed endorsements worth millions of dollars from major Chinese brands as well as multinationals eyeing the Chinese market. In 2022, when she won 2 golds and 1 silver in Beijing, Gu was a national idol and fondly known by her Chinese nickname, Frog Princess. Video clips of her eating Chinese snacks went viral on social media. Her performances in Italy were closely followed and celebrated in China. She has long said her decision to compete for China has more to do with getting girls involved in her sport, with a greater opportunity for growth there than in the United States, than about pure dollars and cents. But controversy over Gu's citizenship has cast a shadow over her popularity, with members of the public questioning her loyalty, wondering aloud if she has given up her US passport to comply with the Chinese law against dual citizenship. Gu has dodged the question, making it anyone's guess. Hu Shijin, a former party newspaper editor in China, argued that what's important for China is attracting talents like Gu and chalking it up as a win over the United States. Today's China is stronger, and it can provide Gu with interest that cannot be realized if she represented Team USA, who wrote in a social media post. She has the sharp judgment to pick Team China, and this is the magnetic effect resulted from China's growth. Liu has chosen differently. For Liu, skating for China is out of the question. Liu was born to Arthur Liu through surrogacy. Unlike Gu's mother, Liu's father fled China when he was wanted by the authorities for his involvement in the 1989 student movement that ended with a bloody crackdown in the heart of Beijing and forced many student activists into exile. Hundreds, perhaps thousands, were killed when the military quelled the protests on June 3 to 4, 1989. Chinese people still have no freedom of speech, no freedom of religion, and there are still political prisoners in China, Arthur Liu recently told Nikkei Asia. Clearly, I wouldn't allow my daughter to compete for such a government. While the Chinese government embraced Gu with flattering publicity and millions in state funding for her training, Liu said he only let his daughter compete in Beijing in 2022 with assurances from the State Department and the US Olympic Committee about her safety. The FBI had warned him that he and his daughter were targeted in a Chinese government spying operation. That year, Alyssa Liu placed 6th in women's single skating. This time, she became the first American woman to win Olympic figure skating gold in 24 years. Her story spread wildly in China's social media, garnering praises such as free spirit and more genuine. Some, however, pledged loyalty to Gu and suggested that Liu's success was nothing for the Chinese people to get excited about. 2 paths to the podium, Liu, Gu, and the shadow of China-US relations. The Olympic Games have always been more than a sporting event. Beneath the roar of the crowd and the glitter of medals lies a quiet stage where nations, identities, and politics intersect. In recent years, few stories have captured this intersection as vividly as those of 2 athletes, Liu and Gu. Both Olympians rose to international fame, yet their journeys could not have been more different. Between them stretched not only two personal stories but also the complex relationship between China and the United States. Their stories reveal that behind every Olympic performance lies a deeper narrative about belonging, identity, and the subtle weight of geopolitics. The weight of heritage. For many athletes, nationality is simple, they represent the country where they were born. But for Liu and Gu, identity was far more layered. Liu's story was rooted deeply in tradition. Born and raised in China, Liu grew up in a sports system designed to discover and train elite athletes from a young age. Like many Chinese Olympians, Liu entered rigorous training programs early in life. Days began before sunrise and ended long after sunset. Discipline, repetition, and sacrifice were constants. To Liu, representing China was never a question. It was the natural culmination of years of dedication. When Liu stepped onto the Olympic stage, the red flag and the sound of the national anthem symbolized everything that had shaped the athlete's life. Gu's path was almost the opposite. Born and raised largely in the United States, Gu grew up between cultures. Her upbringing reflected the increasingly global world of the 21st century, an American education combined with deep family ties to China. She spoke English and Chinese, traveled between continents, and lived comfortably in two cultural worlds. But when the Olympics approached, Gu made a choice that would ignite global conversation. She decided to represent China. Suddenly, her personal decision became international news. A choice that echoed beyond sports. Athletes switched national teams occasionally, but Gu's decision carried unusual significance because of the broader relationship between China and the United States. The two countries share a complicated partnership, economic rivals, technological competitors, and global powers whose political differences often dominate headlines. Against this backdrop, Gu's decision seemed to symbolize more than an athlete choosing a flag. In the United States, some observers questioned why an American-raised athlete would compete for another nation. Critics argued that her